Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today we're diving into three, well, profoundly transformative concepts from Buddhist philosophy: anatta, sunyade, and nibbana. You might have heard these terms,
Yeah.
maybe even seen them used interchangeably,
hmm
but really understanding their distinct meanings and how they beautifully interweave, that can fundamentally shift your perception, of reality in your own mind. So our mission today is to crack open these ideas. Let's clarify some common misunderstandings and reveal how they form this logical, powerful path toward liberation. We've gathered some truly insightful perspectives from our sources to guide us. We want to uncover not just what these words mean, but what they do for us.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, I think, is that while these concepts are deeply interconnected, each one offers a unique lens. And discerning their nuances, well, that's key. It helps you move beyond simply knowing the words
Right.
to actually seeing and maybe even experiencing their profound implications in your own life. It's about shifting from, just intellectual understanding to a deeply personal insight.
Okay, let's start with a concept that can feel quite radical at first. Anatta, that's A-N-A-T-T-A. It translates often as not self or no self. For many, that sounds jarring, doesn't
So
it?
it really can, yeah.
Almost like saying, I don't exist.
Yeah.
But our sources suggest it's far more nuanced. What exactly does this principle truly mean?
Okay, so here's the truly revolutionary insight the teachings present. What we instinctively feel as ourself. This I that seems to endure, that makes decisions, that experiences life.
That persistent feeling, yeah?
That feeling, exactly. It's not a fixed, independent entity at all. Anta means that everything in the world, including what we consider us, lacks a permanent, unchanging essence. Our sources explain that our physical body, our feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness, these are what are called the five aggregates. Basically, the dynamic components that make up what we mistakenly perceive as a solid, enduring self.
So it's not saying I don't exist, but rather that the self we cling to is more like a river, constantly flowing, changing, never the same moment to moment,
Precise. Yeah.
instead of a solid, unchanging stone. It's a subtle distinction, but it sounds like a crucial one.
It is crucial. It's about recognizing that there isn't a fixed, independent, eternal essence or soul that we can label as self within these aggregates. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the practical application is to really consider these impermanent and uncontrollable aspects of existence.
How so?
Well, when we contemplate anatta, it helps us dismantle our clinging, our attachment to things as us, ours, or a permanent self. The teachings highlight this clinging as the very cause of suffering. So it's this profound understanding, seeing the characteristic of not self in all things, that leads to letting go
Oh, okay.
and ultimately to freedom.
That idea of not self, it really is a huge paradigm shift. For someone hearing this for the first time, it might even feel unsettling, to think that the core of me isn't this solid thing. What are some of the immediate, tangible ways our sources suggest this understanding actually changes daily experience, beyond just philosophical acceptance?
That's a great question because this isn't just theory, is it?
Right.
When you truly begin to see that your body, your emotions, your thoughts are constantly arising and passing away, and that they aren't ultimately you in a permanent sense, a significant shift occurs. You naturally start to loosen your grip.
Loosen your grip.
Yeah, imagine, for example, a strong emotion like anger. Instead of thinking, I am angry, the anatta perspective helps you observe there is anger arising.
That's different.
It is. This small shift in perspective creates space. It reduces that identification and, consequently, the suffering tied to it. It's about seeing the dance of impermanent phenomena without being totally swept away by it.
Okay, that makes sense. Now here's where it gets, I think, really interesting. Once we begin to grasp anatta, the sources suggest the next natural progression is sunyato e sunyoti, which translates to emptiness or voidness. But this isn't about nothingness,
Yeah.
right? Or some kind of nihilistic absence of everything, because that's another common misconception that can deter people.
No, not at all. And that's a critical point to clarify, definitely. Sunyanatta is a direct state that arises when one deeply understands and, crucially, applies anatta.
Applies it. Yeah.
It's when our mind becomes empty of clinging to the notion of a self and to all those things we mistakenly thought were ours or possessed some stable, independent identity. Think of it as a clear, sequential process, maybe. First, you truly see the reality of anatta, that nothing has an inherent permanent self.
You see it.
Then you naturally experience the act of letting go of that deeply ingrained clinging.
Uh-huh.
And as a result, your mind enters a state that is empty, empty of those former attachments, empty of the mental burden.
So it's not just an intellectual concept then, but an actual felt state of mind resulting from that insight and practice,
Yeah.
like a physical release.
Yeah.
You truly see the reality of anatta, and then your mind naturally empties itself of the habit of clinging, bringing a sense of relief.
Exactly. Yes. The teachings use a powerful analogy to clarify this. Imagine holding a heavy, burdensome object in your hand, maybe a bag full of worries or expectations.
Okay.
When you realize it's not truly yours, that holding it serves no real purpose for you, and that actually holding it is causing you discomfort,
You drop it.
you naturally put it down. That act of putting down, which symbolizes letting go of attachment, makes your hand empty. This emptiness, this release, brings a sense of lightness and freedom. And this emptiness of sunyata, it extends far beyond just the concept of self. It refers to being empty of defilements or kilesa, those mental impurities like greed, hatred, and delusion, and also empty of all conditioned phenomena known as sankhara dhamma, meaning everything that arises, changes, and ceases to be, essentially all compounded things.
Wow.
Which naturally raises an important question.
Which is where Nibbana and Ibba comes in, right?
Precise.
Our sources describe Nibbana as the very heart, maybe the ultimate goal of this entire journey. And just like sunyata, Nibbana isn't a physical place or some heaven you go to after you die, is it?
No, absolutely not. That's a very common misconception, too. Nibbana is definitively described as a state of mind, an ultimate state free from those defilements, kilesa, we just mentioned.
Right, the greed, hatred, delusion.
Exactly. And completely liberated from all conditioned phenomena, sankhara dhamma. In this state, the mind is utterly and completely free from suffering. In fact, the material we reviewed tells us sunyata is sometimes referred to as Nibbana itself.
Really?
Yes, precisely because Nibbana is a state empty of all these defilements and conditioned things. It is the ultimate emptiness of suffering.
That's a significant connection. So it sounds like sunyata isn't just a stepping stone, but potentially a description of Nibbana itself, just viewed from a slightly different angle.
You could see it that way, yes. It points to the same ultimate reality of liberation.
You also have a great analogy from our sources to make this incredibly relatable for us, the listeners, to truly grasp what this state might feel like.
Yes, it's a very vivid comparison, I find. Imagine working a daily, demanding job.
Okay, most of us can relate to that.
Right. And let's say that job represents all the clinging to conditioned phenomena and the stresses that come with them. The day you finally decide to quit that job, that state of being free from work, free from the demands, the schedules, the responsibilities, the daily grind.
That feeling of freedom.
That feeling, that state is Nibbana. It's a state where no chaos, no defilements, no suffering can intrude because the very conditions that allowed them to arise have been completely abandoned. It's about letting go of what binds you entirely.
So instead of trying to find Nibbana somewhere far away or thinking it's something you have to magically achieve after death, the path is right here and now. It's about contemplating anatta, which leads to letting go, which then brings our mind to the state of emptiness, sunyata. And that, the teaching suggests, is the doorway to Nibbana, which is described as being close at hand, accessible in this very life. That's a radical shift from seeking some external paradise.
It really is. It brings the path right into your present experience.
So what does this all mean for their individual roles then? How do anatta, sunyata, and Nibbana differ in emphasis while remaining so deeply connected? It feels like a beautiful, logical progression, but understanding their distinct contributions seems crucial.
Okay, let's try to summarize. Anatta emphasizes the characteristic of things that they are fundamentally not self, impermanent, and uncontrollable. It's the key insight, the what is true.
The insight. Got it.
Sunyata, on the other hand, highlights the state of emptiness that results from truly seeing anatta, an emptiness from the notion of self and from all those mental impurities, the defilements.
The resulting state.
Yes. And this state of emptiness, when complete, is Nibbana itself. So anatta is the principle, the fundamental insight, and sunyata is the resultant state achieved through that insight and the subsequent letting go, which leads to, or maybe is, Nibbana.
This brings up a really deep and fascinating question mentioned in our sources, one that might sound a bit like a paradox. If anatta applies to everything, including Nibbana itself, does that mean we also have to let go of Nibbana? That sounds a bit like a snake eating its tail kind of problem, doesn't it? Where the ultimate goal itself becomes something we have to discard. How do the teachings reconcile that?
That's a very insightful question, and it's certainly a nuanced point. It has prompted a lot of discussion among practitioners and scholars over centuries, but it's not quite a paradox in the way it might initially sound.
Okay.
When Nibbana is called anatta, it doesn't mean we let go of it in the same way we let go of the five aggregates or other conditioned things. Instead, it means Nibbana itself is a state that has no self or is not a self. It's not an anatta, a self that we can own or cling to or identify with in the first place. Ah, okay.
Because Nibbana is inherently empty of self, empty of inherent existence. The letting go applies more to our desire for Nibbana.
The desire.
Yes, or our attachment to the idea of Nibbana, a conceptual clinging to the goal rather than Nibbana itself. We access Nibbana by letting go of all other clingings, not by clinging to Nibbana. It's the ultimate non-clinging, you could say.
That makes sense. You let go of the striving for it rather than the state itself.
Exactly. The striving itself is a form of clinging.
Our sources also touch on another fascinating idea, that perhaps we are always, in some sense, with Nibbana, but our defilements just obscure it, like clouds covering the sun. What's your take on this perspective? How does it fit with the previous discussion? Does Nibbana reside within us, or is it something we attain?
Yeah, this perspective is indeed often used as a very helpful teaching device. It's quite powerful, actually.
It sounds encouraging. It is. It's like saying the sun is always shining brilliant and clear, but clouds, which represent our defilements like greed, hatred, and delusion, are simply blocking our view of it. Now, while the Theravada tradition generally suggests Nibbana isn't something inherently within our five aggregates in a possessive way,
Okay.
it does speak of an original bright mind, sometimes called Jit Pravasorn, a mind that is inherently luminous but gets obscured by guest defilements, arkantuka kilesa, that come and go.
Guest defilements, I like that.
Yeah.
So it's a powerful way of saying that Nibbana isn't some far-off destination you have to physically travel to or create from scratch,
Exactly.
but rather a state that's entirely accessible if you diligently work to remove what's blocking it within your own mind. It truly shifts the focus from seeking outside to uncovering within.
Precisely. It's an encouragement to focus on removing what is not essential, what is causing the obscuration, rather than trying to build something new or go somewhere else. The job analogy helps here again, maybe.
Right, the quitting the job analogy.
Yep. Yeah. Nibbana isn't a part of you like your hands or your mind are. It's the state of being free from your job, free from those conditions. When you abandon all conditioned things, all defilements, your mind naturally enters that pure, clear, and peaceful state. It's already there, in potential, you could say, just waiting to be revealed by the removal of obstructions.
One final thought, then, that I think many listeners might wonder about, as mentioned in our sources. Why did the Buddha present this path to Nibbana? Why teach it? And sort of a big thought experiment. If everyone did reach Nibbana, would samsara, the cycle of rebirth, just collapse?
Important points. First, the Buddha didn't want or force anyone to reach Nibbana in the sense of imposing his will. He discovered this path, this possibility of liberation, and presented it because he saw with profound clarity that life in samsara, this unending cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, is inherently marked by suffering.
Dukkha. Right.
Beings are perpetually exposed to aging, illness, death, separation from loved ones, not getting what they want, the pervasive suffering of unfulfilled desires. Nibbana is presented as the ultimate freedom from this suffering. It's a choice, really, for those who become weary of the endless cycle and seek true, lasting peace.
He opened the door.
He opened the door, exactly. It's up to each individual to walk through their own effort.
And as for samsara collapsing, if everyone reached Nibbana, is that even a theoretical possibility according to the texts?
The material we explored is quite clear on this. No, it will not collapse.
Okay, why not?
Well, firstly, it's considered practically impossible for all beings to achieve Nibbana simultaneously in one lifetime, or even across lifetimes easily. It requires immense individual effort, the accumulation of virtues and wisdom, what are called paramis or perfections, often over many, many lifetimes.
So it's an individual journey.
Very much so. And as long as there are beings who still cling to defilements and conditioned phenomena, samsara, the cycle, will continue unendingly. Furthermore, Buddhist scriptures mention the future appearance of new Buddhas, like Maitreya Buddha, who will arise to rediscover and teach the path again when the current teachings eventually decline over vast eons.
Interesting. So the path itself is rediscovered.
Exactly, ensuring it remains available across vast spans of time for those ready to hear it.
So even as individuals find their way to liberation and step out of the cycle, the universe's grand, intricate cycle of existence continues. It's a journey of personal liberation, not necessarily a collective end to all existence, which is actually, yeah, a surprisingly comforting thought in a way.
It frames it as a personal possibility, doesn't it?
It does. Well, we've certainly journeyed through some truly profound concepts today, anatta, sunyata, and nibbana. It really is a powerful and logical progression from understanding what not self truly means
Okay.
to experiencing the emptiness that arises from letting go, and finally to realizing that ultimate unconditioned liberation. And as we've discussed, these aren't just abstract terms. They're invitations to a deeper way of seeing and being in your everyday life.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating, I think, is that while these concepts seem to point towards this profound spiritual liberation, they offer immediate, tangible relevance for your daily experience.
Yeah.
Right now, they invite you, really, to continuously question what you cling to, what you identify with as self, and what truly brings lasting peace versus just temporary satisfaction. It's about a consistent practice, isn't it? Awareness, observation, and release.
A continuous practice. So for you, our listener, here's a thought to perhaps mull over as you go about your day. If Nibbana is truly a state accessible when defilements are cleared, and not some faraway place to be found, what heavy object might you be holding on to right now? Perhaps a belief, an expectation, an unexamined identity, or an attachment that if you could just gently let it go, might reveal a surprising new state of freedom and emptiness in your own experience. Something to consider.